Hey everyone, it's Kevin Carr, and in this episode of Fitness Fundamentals, I'm going to talk to you about the Norwegian 4x4 conditioning protocol. The Norwegian 4x4 VO2 Max Training method has become extremely popular as of late. So in this video, I'm going to tell you all about it. I'm going to do it myself, and I will provide you my personal thoughts on how to effectively program interval training into your programming. The 4x4 Norwegian method was originally popularized by research out of the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, where researchers Jan Helgerd and Ulrik Wisloff looked at the effectiveness of 4x4 minute intervals in improving VO2 max in comparison with moderate continuous training, as well as its impact on other metabolic factors such as insulin sensitivity, endothelial function, and mitochondrial health. In summary of a few different studies, which I will include in the resource section, they found that the 4x4 method was superior to moderate and low intensity methods at improving VO2 max, as well as metabolic factors like insulin sensitivity. The standard protocol that they prescribed is as follows. First, start with a light warm-up. Next, they did 4 intervals performed at 85 to 95% of max heart rate with 3 minutes of rest in between. The pace of the intervals should be hard and challenging, but it should be sustainable for the entire 4-minute work period. During the 3 minutes of rest, you should be doing light activity like walking if you're doing them running, or pedaling lightly if you are on a bike. It's worth noting that the initial research on the Norwegian 4x4 was done with running, but research has since been adopted to be done on a stationary bike, which for many people is probably more applicable, and that's how I'm going to do it because frankly, I don't really enjoy running myself. So here we go. I'm going to do the 4x4 and you can watch me suffer, and then we'll come back and discuss it after and talk about programming. All right, so I'm going to ride the 4x4 minute bike protocol here on the assault bike behind me. I've actually done this a bunch of times, and what I actually do is I make a little tweak is I do 4x1.6 miles rather than 4x4 minutes. And doing 4x1.6 miles just gives me a little bit more accuracy because I can see second by second if I'm a little bit faster or a little bit slower that day. If I just ride 4x4 minutes, all I can see is 4 minutes and 1.6 miles because the bike isn't that sensitive to, small changes in distance. If I ride 1.6 miles, I can see, hey, was I 350 today? Was I 348 today? It just gives a little bit more sensitivity to changes in pace other than just the watts and the RPMs. So I'm gonna go 1.6 miles on, 3 minutes off, and I'm gonna do that 4 times. All right, so I'll film this, I'll check in with you in between each rep, and wish me luck. Average 66 RPMs, 390 watts, 351 for time. That's average for me, so I'll rest 3 minutes now, and then we'll go again. All right, time to get back to it. $351 again. RPMs. 377 watts. All right, 2 minutes. $65 RPMs, 364 watts. One more. Three minutes. Last one. $355. That one was hard. I was running out of gas. 64 RPMs, 351 watts. That's it. 1.6 miles by 4.
with 3 minutes rest. I'll give you guys a recap, my thoughts, the positives and negatives, and how you can apply some interval work actually practically after I recover. Thanks.
Whew, that was tough. I've actually been doing this or similar style intervals on the air bike 1 time per week, so it wasn't exactly my first time doing it, but it's still hard. What I do instead of a strict interpretation of the 4x4 minute intervals is actually 4 by 1.6 miles on the air bike, which takes me roughly 3 minutes and 50 seconds per interval. I like to do them based on distance because I can more easily see second by second improvements in my time, rather than simply riding for 4 minutes and not knowing if I covered any additional distance with each repetition. So first and foremost, this is hard, like really hard. And it's definitely too hard for the average gym goer to start with. So something to keep in mind is that just because you see something in the research or on social media does not mean that you need to go and do that thing, because very likely it's not going to be productive or sustainable for you personally. Specifically in the research, the target heart rate to sprint is at 90%, which most average gym goers will struggle to even hit, much less maintain for 4 4-minute efforts. These longer intervals have been shown to work well in the research at improving VO2 max because they get the athlete close to their VO2 max during training for an extended period of time, effectively lifting that athlete's ceiling of oxygen delivery and usage. Longer intervals like these can be extremely fatiguing, and I think many people see a study like this and think, oh, well, if it's effective at improving VO2 max, then I should do it every day. But the reality is that you cannot do things like this every single day. When looking at the research, some fundamental research design issues that don't match up fully with practical application do exist. So most of these studies are done for only 6 to 8 weeks, and they had them perform these protocols 3 times per week. The high volume of these efforts certainly was effective at improving peak VO2. However, that volume of high intensity threshold intervals like these is just not really sustainable for anybody in the long term, much less the average exerciser. I do threshold intervals like these 1 time per week. I may vary the distance between longer intervals like 3 miles, which take me about 7 minutes, or shorter intervals like 1 mile, which might take me 2.5 minutes. When it comes to training for overall health and improving your VO2 max, a good program should provide you with a little bit of everything. Some low intensity, some longer intervals like these, and then some short intervals that might take anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds. All of these methods will help you build a well-rounded energy system that allows for greater energy production and will be a program that's more sustainable because the low intensity work will offset the more fatiguing high intensity work, as well as improve your overall cardiac output. If you're the average gym goer watching this, I would recommend taking up interval training and working towards something like the Norwegian 4x4 on the air bike over the long term. First, do a max aerobic speed test. I cover this thoroughly in another video, which is linked above, titled Modifies Cooper's Test for Conditioning. This will help you determine the correct relative intensity to start your interval training. Once you've done your test, I recommend starting with short 10-second on and 20-second off Tabata style intervals. I also have a video on how to program those that you can watch and is linked above. Starting with shorter intervals is not only less time consuming for the average gym goer, but is a more sustainable way to train high intensity work for a beginner. From there, move towards longer interval efforts to start doing things like the 4x4 minute protocol, but slowly and progressively build your volume. Week 1, do 3 by 1 minute efforts with 2 minutes rest in between. Week 2, move up to 4 by 1 minute efforts with 2 minutes rest in between. Week 3, do 3 by 90 second efforts with 2 minutes rest in between. Week 4, do 4 by 90 second efforts with 2 minutes rest in between. And then week 5, do 3 by 2 minute efforts with 3 minutes rest in between. So on and so forth, slowly building your capacity to work at elevated intensity for a longer duration. In summary, these 4x4 minute protocols are effective at improving your peak VO2. However, I would caution anyone hearing about this online to dive right in and think that this will be your saving grace when it comes to your cardiovascular health. Your training is not a research study. You can't just adopt any trend that you see happening online and think that it will lead to a sustainable approach to exercise for you. When it comes to cardiovascular conditioning and your heart health, a well-rounded approach to exercise is your best bet. For the average person going to the gym, I often recommend starting with short 10-second on, 20-second off intervals at 110% to 120% of your max aerobic speed, simply because time availability is a huge factor. think about it. If you also want to train for things like mobility, strength, and power during your week, short MAS intervals provide us with the most time-efficient method to improve your overall cardiovascular health and increase your VO2. From there, as you improve your conditioning and build a solid exercise habit, begin adding more low-intensity work like zone 2 and longer sustained intervals like these into your conditioning program. If you enjoyed this video and you want to access the references or simply want to watch without commercials, head to MBSC TV today to start your free trial. In addition to that, we have tens of thousands of hours of content from MBSC, including all of our staff meetings, in-services, seminars, and every program that we've written for the last 10 years. Head on over to MBSC TV today, and I promise you will not be disappointed. My name's Kevin Carr. Thanks for watching.